Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Wednesday, November 27th, 2019. How y'all doing today on this glorious Thanksgiving Eve? If you're in the United States, I guess. So, there's been a lot of things I've wanted to talk about and just haven't gotten to it. Things are getting a little rough, but I am hanging on and trying not to lose it. So I guess let's start with SCG cutting Kevin Jones and Tom Ross. I met Kevin Jones. He was really nice. I actually met him at that first tournament I did down in Baltimore. I went to, the whole reason I decided to finally go to one of these things after the guys had tried to convince me for, ever, was because Tom announced on Versus that he was going to be there. And, I went to meet Tom Ross. I also got to meet Jerry Thompson and Kevin Jones. Now, granted, at the time, I only had a very loose concept of who Kevin Jones was, and had almost no concept of who Jerry Thompson was, because at that point, when I, looked for videos of coverage, I looked specifically for videos where Tom Ross or Ali Entrazi was playing. And, Ali Entrazi because, I wanted to get into modern, to do the modern thing, and I thought I was going to play Tron. I tried to play Tron. No. And Ali Entrazi was the Tron king at the time. So in any case, that was it. I didn't just watch coverage. I watched for specific players. And only those two. And Kevin Jones, I only remembered who he was because a few weeks prior to that, he had been in a match against Tom on camera. And there was something about it that was memorable. Some interaction that happened that was oh wow, that's kind of cool. So I remembered his opponent. Kevin, was really nice. Chatted with me. I haven't been reading articles so much lately, so I can't really say anything on the quality of anybody's articles. But it's really sad to me to see them dropping these two, but ultimately, it's a business decision. I'm sure there's reasons. Kevin seems to be taking it rather well from the, I got let go. It's kind of the same thing with, that job I was working at. That's we ended the contract because, it just really wasn't working out. I think Kevin is a wealth of information. I'm just not sure articles are a good medium for him. If that's his articles weren't the quality they were looking for or whatever, not everybody's a writer, man. That's just the reality. And I can tell you from, some of the announcements that come out from, different places that I follow, you can tell not everybody's a writer, and they're having not writers write this stuff. Some people are better, walking through things in a video. They're better in audio than they are in writing. So maybe he just needs to find his medium, but, Kevin Jones is an awesome player. I'm sure he's got a lot to offer. He just has to find the medium that works for him. As far as Tom goes, I don't know. it's really sad to see him go. Like, the whole reason I got into SCG content is because Scathe actually was in a feature match from SCG and had sent me a link to the video. You know, because it was really exciting. And, you know, I went digging through their YouTube, and Scathe had played a lot on the SCG tour, so he talked them up a lot. And I came across Tom Ross, and it was, you know, finally there was an aggro player that was good at the game, you know, that built a career off of playing aggro decks. And, like, I was so excited when I came across him, and I can remember, like, I texted Scathe, and I used to get Tom and Todd Anderson confused, you know, their names. Tom, Todd, it's pretty much the same name, right? Never got Stevens and Anderson confused, though. It's weird. So I texted him, and I was like, oh my god, this guy, Todd Anderson, he's like my new god. And Scathe was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, he plays like I do, or I play like he does. I don't know which way that goes. And, you know, it's, like, really exciting because for ages, because I favor the aggro archetype, people have told me that, like, you can't goldfish forever, and you gotta build skill in a different archetype, and that's not a real Magic deck. That's, you know, you're goldfishing, and aggro, the basic mechanics are pretty easy to master, like, to get. Like, go for the face. That's what you do. If you have an opportunity to deal damage to your opponent, you do that. But the actual mastery of the aggro archetype is pretty difficult. Because aggro has a high ceiling and a very low floor. If, you know, you just kind of go in with that mentality of everything just goes at the face, you either get there before they can stop you, or you fall down and you don't get back up. Like, that is the reality of that archetype. So to say that it's, you know, really easy to play and it's free wins, if that were the case, every pro player would be doing it, because pro players don't get extra prize money or extra, you know, top 8s on their records for style. And they're about the wins. Who was it that they were playing just like one of those really fucking obnoxious decks that everybody hates, and they're like, I hate playing this deck, but I have to, because it is literally the best thing you can be doing. And it's so completely fucking degenerate that I have to. And yeah, Scathe was like, do you mean Tom Ross? And I'm like, yeah, that guy. And he's like, yeah, Todd Anderson doesn't play like you at all. He enjoys the color blue. I'm like, oh yeah, no, not that one, the other one. And, you know, a long ways back when Huey Jensen had won Worlds, and everybody made this big deal about him being the first openly gay world champion, I was like, I don't understand why that's a big deal, and I don't understand why that's why we have to focus on, and, like, you know, I feel like that's diminishing his accomplishment. Like, his accomplishments become secondary to this demographic of his. And, you know, over time I've come to understand it more, especially seeing, like, Boo get really excited. Like, she got really excited about Emma Handy. I guess I should just start calling her Sage now, since we did that episode and she went with Sage. But anyway, she was real excited about Emma Handy. You know, Emma Handy cosplayed as Spike at one of the tournaments, and, you know, Sage really wants to do that. So that was her hero. And then, you know, Drake Sasser came out and talked about his struggle with ADHD, and Sage has ADHD. And so, you know, that's a player for her to look up to, that, like, you know, he's accomplished so much working with the same difficulty she has. So seeing this, kind of shifted the perspective a little bit, so that when Autumn Burchett won the Mythic Championship, like, I got it. I'm like, yeah, this is great for people who identify the same way, to foster their feeling of belonging in the community. And that's kind of when I realized that, like, Tom Ross had been my champion. No, I didn't need a woman. I didn't need a bisexual. I had many Caucasians to choose from. No, the thing I needed was a champion that legitimized, my archetype. And that's what he did. So, Tom Ross is really the reason that I started going to opens. Even though I don't go to very many of them, I don't travel far. Because with the family and everything, it's a lot to ask of husband for me to be like, okay, so I'm like leaving at noon on Friday and I won't be back until late Sunday. Or even, okay, we're not going to day 2, so I'll be back earlier Sunday, but, it's a lot to ask of him. I still do it every once in a while, and Skade and I are hoping to get together for an event since he, moved away and I haven't seen him in a few years. It'd be great to, like, get to hang out in person with my friend as opposed to, hang out with him in text. But my opportunities to travel anywhere that requires me overnighting are a little few and far between. So no, I only go to the local ones, but, like, he's the whole reason I went to the first one at all. And, it turned out to not be terrifying, It was a good experience. And I got to meet Tom. And, he was nice. And then I got to meet him again, and I fangirled at him, like, really, really hard. And I think it kind of freaked him out a little bit. And I don't know if it was intentional or not, but kind of got deflected onto Jerry. And I mean, Jerry was just wonderful. Just a wonderful guy. We were going to talk about that thing, though. But yeah, Tom Ross is the whole reason that I ventured out to a tournament. Was for an opportunity to meet my magic god, my champion. It was sad when WotC snapped up Melissa De Tora. I was sad when WotC snapped up Michael Majors. I always enjoyed watching him on Versus. He had this odd combination of, like, sarcastic and witty, but also being, like, awkward and adorable. Like, I don't know how to really describe it, but he was always a joy to watch. But I was really sad when WotC snapped up Tom Ross. In fact, a couple days ago, one of my Facebook memories was after the announcement. Mirror Match posted on my Facebook, so what are you going to do now that Tom Ross isn't going to be playing, so you can't copy his deck? Like, I don't know, I guess Craig Wesco? But I'm happy for these players that they got the opportunity to go work for WotC and everything. But, from the personal aspect, it was like, oh man, now I'm not going to be able to watch him play anymore. Man, when they snapped up JD and Clomparens, I'm like, Jesus Christ, WotC, this has become like Game of Thrones. I need to stop liking players, because as soon as I do, WotC's like, oh, come work for us. And I was glad to see him back in, the competition once he, stopped working with WotC. But he's been out for a year now. And in Magic terms, that's a lot of distance to lose. And I talked about this ages and ages ago about how, like, this is one of the reasons that I want nothing to do with doing this stuff professionally, is what happens when you're not at the top anymore, when there's a newer, shinier star to follow. What happens when, you become less relevant? What do you have to fall back on? Now, I hope somebody else picks up Tom, be it TCG player or CFB or whoever. I hope to see him get to, kind of rally and get to shine again. I saw last night, he said he's going to start a Patreon and a Discord, and he's going to start streaming, which I think will be neat, and I will probably toss him a sub, because, he was a real inspiration to me when I started playing semi-competitively. And, I want to support him. But it makes me sad to see SCG let him go. But I'm not... There's been a lot of anger directed at Cedric over these decisions, and I don't think Cedric's the one who gets the final call on that. It's a business decision, and it sucks. Believe me, I get it. I'm unemployed, and Christmas is coming, and I have 3 kids. I get it. But, just like, I really don't bear any ill will towards my boss at my last gig that, came to me, sat me down, and said, this isn't working out. I said, yeah, no, it isn't. It really isn't. If I could go back 6 months ago knowing what I know now, no, I wouldn't have left where I was at. But I did get to grow a lot. I did get to learn a lot. I've got some good leads. But I don't know that you can really blame Cedric for this. I mean, people want somebody to blame when something bad happens to somebody they like, and this is bad, Losing your job is never cool. It sucks. But if this is what they have to do to preserve their bottom line, to keep employing the rest of their writers, sometimes decisions like that have to be made, and it sucks, but it is the reality. As far as SCG's making money hand over fist, I don't know that they are, honestly. I mean, I don't know that they're starving, but tournament costs, like the cost to run a tournament is a lot. I don't know how much they make off of, doing the opens and everything. And, I don't know anybody that buys cards from SCG because their prices are higher than everybody else. And Ultimate Guard products have become more widely available. Y'all know me, I will support the guild before anywhere else. So, now that they carry, Moss has got a really good stock of katanas. Of course, I don't really like those sleeves. I don't like them at all, honestly. And, he has all the Ultimate Guard stuff. I would go there before ordering from another store because I want to support my local shop. So, it sucks and it makes me sad, but I don't know that I can really be pissed off at SCG about it. I don't know. Hopefully this, leads to something better for Tom. He gets to make content the way he wants to, and, gets direct fan support. And, he seems to have a lot of fans out there, so maybe ultimately he ends up better off in this position. Same with Kevin. But the other thing we're going to talk about is the Arena Decklist podcast with Jerry and Noah. Jerry's just such a wonderful human being. I mean, he really is. I didn't really know who he was when I met him down in Baltimore. But, he was seriously just, the nicest fucking guy. He was friendly and excited and, I just can't say enough good things about him. So, when I saw, and I'll admit, I went into that episode knowing what I was walking into. I had already seen the, I already saw the thread from Max, about the story that was going to be told and everything. And when I started listening to the episode, I was like, man, did they do, 2 together? Because I can't imagine how this is going to end up there. Because the episode started out, really positive and, talking about the problems with mental health in the community and, taking care of yourself and everything. That, I'm like, how does this get there? And then it did. And, I can't walk it back and listen to this episode before I knew what was going on to say, I 100% know what my reaction would have been, but I'm pretty confident that my reaction still would have been, wow, that's kind of bullshit. I'm going to pause y'all real quick. Because the thing is the basic story Noah was telling is, he's at this event. He makes, a less than appropriate comment. Everybody kind of moves on. And then at the start of the next round, the judge tracks him down and says, okay, yeah, it's been decided. We're going to give you a USC minor for this. And, that's a warning. And that he got really tilted about it and decided that, he didn't need to be there and he was just going to drop and not deal with the aggravation and everything. So that's the basic story, which could have been told in that manner without the, trying to come down on this judge and make these presumptuous claims that, he's too young and he's inexperienced and, he doesn't know what he's doing and it takes him 40 minutes to make this decision. And, I appealed it to the head judge, but he already covered his ass and went and told things in such a way that, no, okay, look, here's the thing. Again, I have no problem with him telling the story of how, he said this thing and he didn't really think much of it because he's a parent And yeah, I mean, totally, when you're a parent, your threshold for discussing bodily functions and or fluids, it just skyrockets. You talk about the contents of vomit. You talk about different levels of poo. Like, yeah, no, it's a thing when you're a parent. Totally get that. I get that. But I mean, I also know that even as a parent, that doesn't mean that this is appropriate conversation everywhere. So, you know, I don't think you can use that, you know, like, if you work in a slaughterhouse, you know, as a carnivore, like, that's interesting and all, and I'm sure your topics of conversation in that line of work are much different than everybody else's, but that still doesn't mean, like, I don't want you sitting at the dinner table talking about it. You know, that's not an appropriate place for that. So, I mean, I get it. You don't always think about these things, because again, as a parent, it's pretty frequent topics of conversation. Alright, I gotta pause y'all real quick again. You know, and it's okay to be like, oh yeah, I was talking about this, and this was probably not the appropriate forum for that. You know, and that's fine. So if you're unaware, the story, the basics of it is, because Noah is a parent of young children, you know, at competitive REL, if a player has to use the restroom when the match has started, you call a judge who will basically come sit in your spot and make sure nothing, let's go this way. Nothing hinky goes on while you're gone. You know, they're doing it to protect you. Make sure your opponent's not messing with your shit. But they will ask you to leave your cell phone. The guild only has one single restroom. So, you know, this actually came up a lot, or comes up a lot when we do the IQs, because we have one restroom for every player that's there, and staff, and anybody else who happens to be hanging around the shop that day. So the go-between rounds thing is not always a possibility. And yeah, now every time somebody's like, I need to use the restroom, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna need you to leave your phone. Yeah, pairings are up, I need you to leave your phone. Because, you know, especially as the event goes on, you know, by now, people have started talking about what decks different players are on and everything. You know, you could totally be deciding that you're going to look stuff up and get, you know, outside information, whatever, which is not permissible. So that's why they ask you to leave your phone. They will do it, by the way. Just be prepared for that. So, you know, Noah's opponent has to use the restroom, calls judge over, judge says, hey, can you leave your phone? And Noah makes a comment like, oh, you gonna hold his penis for him too? Because now I don't have little boys, so I don't know about all that. But I guess when potty training little boys, you have to help them aim. That, I've never been more thankful to have only had daughters. Because that just seems weird, uncomfortable. Maybe that's as a woman. Like, I only have experience with that particular anatomy in one context, and so that feels really weird to me. I guess that would fall on my husband. Anyway, so he makes this comment. And now Max told his side of the story via Twitter thread. this comment's made, and he's not necessarily offended by it, but it does make him slightly uncomfortable, and really, there's no reason to be fucking flippant towards the judge that is taking steps to protect you in the tournament. And okay, you don't care. Just like, if I were in this situation, my opponent's like, oh yeah, hey, I gotta, hit the restroom. We'd call a judge because that is the proper thing to do. And, we need to follow protocol. But I don't care. Like, if you have some knowledge of what deck I'm on and you are going to go look stuff up, hey, you see me as a real competitor. Cool. That's cute. I'm not. Mind you, not because I'm a woman, because I choose not to be. Because I don't put the effort and the focus into it. But anyway, yeah, I personally don't care, but I'm not going to be a douche to the judge. They're doing what they're there to do. So, Max comments that he's not really offended by it, but, he's a little uncomfortable. And the thing is, with USCs, it is such a fucking gray area. Because, just to look around and say, okay, nobody seems offended by it. Do you know how hard it is to be the first person to voice, dude, like, the fuck did you just say? In a room full of strangers. Just because nobody's visibly offended by it doesn't mean that nobody's offended by it. Also, again, it's a really gray area. So, from Noah's perspective, his opponent comes back, judge walks away, and we're done here. From Max's perspective, he walks away, he mentions it to another judge, who says, yeah, you should probably talk to the head judge about that. So he goes and talks to the head judge about it, and the head judge is like, yeah, that's a USC minor. It is. Now, bear in mind, even as Noah told the story, this isn't something Max walked up to the table and overheard him saying to his opponent or anything else. This is something the guy said directly to him. He was being flippant, like, for no fucking reason. And yeah, okay, maybe he didn't see it that way. He was just making a joke, it played into the context of what they were talking about at the time. Whatever. But there was really no reason for this comment to be made. Well, that match ended pretty fast. So by the time, Max has conferred with people, and they say, yeah, you should go issue the penalty, and they go back, and that table's not there anymore. So it's like, okay, we're going to issue it at the beginning of the next round, when, it's easy to track the guy down. So, that is in fact what happens. At the start of the next round, Max goes and finds Noah and says, hey, for that comment you made, it's been decided we're going to give you a USC minor for that. It's a warning. If you accumulate too many, they turn into game losses. And I'll grant, maybe Max's tone was stressed. Because these events are fucking stressful, yo. Like, a lot. Maybe Noah misperceived his tone as something directed at him that really wasn't. I don't know. And it can happen. And I'll grant that. And Noah decides that, he's, trying to get in the game for the next round and everything, and, now this lingering from the last round, yeah, the timing's not ideal. To have remnants of something that happened in your last round come back to bite you in this round, fine. I get that. And I think it's fine for Noah to tell the story about how, he made this offhand comment, and he didn't think much of it. He ended up getting a USC minor for it, and the timing of it just kind of tilted him, and, he just decided, you know what, for my mental health, I'm just going to drop and walk away from this tournament. I just don't want to deal with it. this. Yeah, I'm not going to enjoy myself the rest of the day. Now I'm pissed off about this, so I'm just going to walk away. But he didn't stop there. Like, he got into insulting this judge. And I gotta say, I give Max points for being willing to step up and be like, no, this is not how this happened. Because no name was mentioned. Max at that point was pretty anonymous in the whole exchange. Are you limping, officer? Hope you're okay. But he felt the need to say, no, I'm going to tell the story and put his name and his face on this. And I think it's important because impugning judges like that, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are petty tyrant judges out there. Somebody with a little bit of authority and it goes to their head. You know, I'm sure there's a non-zero amount of that shit. And, you know, I've talked before about the limits of a judge's authority and how to report if you feel that you have a judge in breach of conduct. Because I think these things are important because I don't want that kind of stuff going on in the judge community. I don't want the undermining of trust in the judge community. You know, judges are needed to facilitate paper events, and you know, I don't want to be associated with people who are abusing their authority and everything. And you know, it is a blight on the judge community when that kind of stuff happens, and you know, it needs to be dealt with, and we need to show that, you know, hey, no, we're not about this. But I mean, I'm sure there's people who have stories about rulings I had to give that were like, yeah, and bitch, you know, judge has something to prove. Whatever. Because nobody likes being sanctioned. Nobody likes it. Now, I will grant, because most of my interaction has been limited to the players at my local shop. My local shop is great. Our players are fucking awesome. You know, I love that community. And I was very fortunate in the pool of players I worked with when I did SCG Philly, when I did the side events. All the players were great. You know, I did have somebody not very pleased with the call that was made. And I get it. There wasn't a good resolution to it. That was the guy who did the London Mulligan, and then instead of putting the card on the bottom of his deck, he shuffled it in. And it was like, okay, well, if this was competitive, I'd give him a warning, but it's not, so like, we just let it ride. His opponent was like, how is that fair? And I'm like, but see, what is fair? Do we make a mulligan again? Like, that seems extreme, and that seems punitive for a mistake he made. The London Mulligan is somewhat new, and this player hasn't been playing in paper in a while. You know, so... And I asked him, I was like, is there a resolution you would like to see? Like, we could ask him what card it was and have him search up a copy and put it on the bottom of his deck, but, you know, then we're still trusting the honor system there, you know, that he's going to be accurate about, because it's unknown knowledge. And, you know, the guy conceded. He's like, yeah, you're right, what are we gonna do? He's like, I get it. And that was an interaction that I made sure to fill out the feedback form for, so that if he did come back, they had a record of what transpired there. And I got why he was upset with it. Like, I got why he didn't like the ruling. But I did confer with 2 other judges, because I was like, wow, you know, the old mulligan rules, you either had the mulligan again, like if you were mulling to 5 and accidentally drew 6, you either mulligan to 4, or your opponent got the free Thoughtseize. Well, free better than Thoughtseize, because they could take a land. But with the London Mulligan, what do we do here? And I'd never run into this before. If it ever happened at F&M, nobody called me to take care of it. So, I'm like, shit, I have no idea how we're supposed to fix this. I know how we were supposed to fix the Vancouver and the Paris, but I don't know how we're supposed to fix this. And the guy, he didn't even get mean about it. He was just like, I don't like this resolution. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I get it, dude. I do. But what resolution would you like to see? And he's like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, yeah, but he didn't get, like, super pissy or mean or anything. So, you know, all in all, every player I interacted with in Philly was fine. Or, in a lot of cases, like, they were just really supportive of the judge community and very respectful. And even the IQs, like, we have had people not pleased with their rulings, but they didn't get shitty about it. Like, they didn't like that they just got a game loss. We did have the guy who apparently wasn't up on the changes with Narset, allowed his opponent to draw extra cards, then called us over to take care of it. And when he found out that it was a mutual GRV, he argued it. And it was like, no, dude, this is like the official how we deal with this now, because of too many people who were allowing their opponents to draw the cards, because there is an opportunity generally when an opponent, say, casts a Faithless Looting. They say, yeah, Faithless Looting, especially if you're playing a deck with blue in it, because you gotta pause and see, does it resolve? And you have an opportunity to say, okay, it resolves, but I have an Narset on the field. So you have spent your spell, but you do not get to draw cards. But too many players would allow their opponent to draw the cards, then call the judge, and if we handle this like a hidden card error, you know, you're gaining so much value, and it wasn't really a good way of doing things. So it's like, no, you allowed the draw to happen. So mutual GRV, finish resolving the spell. Yeah, he didn't like it. So maybe he has a tale of woe about these awful, awful fucking judges. But the thing is we were upholding the current standard for ruling on that. So, you know, I know people don't like this stuff, but again, there's a much bigger difference between saying, you know, I feel like the USC was excessive, you know, my opponent didn't seem offended by it, but whatever, fine. And, you know, the timing sucked, and I was pissy about it, and I was tilted, and, you know, just decided that I wasn't going to play anymore that day. Fine, but he didn't need to go on the jag talking smack on the judge. And that's where, like, yeah, it really bothers me that Jerry kind of let him go on that path, and even at times was encouraging in it, because I think much more highly of Jerry Thompson than that, you know. And to his credit, Jerry has apologized for his part in that and come out and said, you know what, yeah, I didn't really think much about it at the time, you know, I was chatting with my friend and everything, and it's easy to lose sight of that kind of stuff when, you know, you're just chatting with your friend and you happen to be recording a podcast that has thousands of listeners. But that's one of those things where it sucks, but it's the reality. You have to always be observant of this following you have, and of, you know, you have a responsibility to watch how you encourage them to act. So I think Jerry is, you know, come away from this with a lesson. I think he's genuinely remorseful, because Jerry uses his rather large platform to amplify the voice of those that are marginalized and generally voiceless in the community, to help them be heard. He generally works to be a force of positivity in the community and taking care of those of us that are most susceptible to discrimination and, just kind of bullshit. So, it sucks to have to say anything negative about anything he's done, but at the same time, I do have faith that his apology was made in good faith, that he genuinely feels remorseful for what he facilitated there and, what was put out there, and is, going to work to course correct in the future. So, there we go. This cast has gotten rather long, and I've found that if I pause it for too long, my phone says, nope, we're just gonna stop running the app in the background and cut the recording. So, I'm gonna cut you off here right before I walk into the grocery store to buy more canned pumpkin so we can make more pumpkin muffins, because we made a dozen last night, of which there are 4 left. Anyway, have a super wonderful, happy Thanksgiving if you're here in the States tomorrow. And as always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to y'all again soon.